Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, Eastern Kentucky University President Mike Benson will be here. He'll talk about massive construction and changes on the campus as a brand new school year is about to begin at the home of the Colonels. President Benson with us shortly. But first, the race is on for Congress in central Kentucky right now. Republican incumbent Andy Barr is believed to be seeking a fourth term next year, and Democrats are ready to try to kick him out of Congress. Last month, State Senator Reggie Thomas of Lexington announced he's running, and he appeared here. And now retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath is in the race. She announced in a splashy online video that got lots of national attention last week, and that prompted a strong fundraising start for her campaign. McGrath was the first female Marine to fly in an F-18 on a combat mission, and she's returned home to Kentucky after 20 years of military service to make this race. Colonel, thank you for coming. We appreciate it very much.
It's nice to be here with you, Bill.
And thank you for your service, certainly. Give us a little bit about your background, your military career. What led you to this moment?
Well, as you said, I spent 20 years as a Marine Corps officer, traveled all around the world, all around the country, serving my country. At the end of the 2016 elections, I was still a Marine. I was reaching my 20 years of active duty service. And the 2016 elections made me realize that I need to continue my service in a different way. And I thought long and hard about what I want to do next. I knew I always wanted to come home. Kentucky was my home and is my home. And so as my 20 years ended, I figured this is something I got to do. This is something our country needs. We need people to step up who are not standard politicians, who care about the country and want to just serve.
Did you think you would be in a race this soon? I mean, if it was the 2016 election that prompted this, did you intend to jump right in this year?
Well, no, I didn't. I would say this spring, when the Republicans started pushing through a health care plan that was purely political, that nobody liked, that tipped it for me. And I felt like now is the time. This country needs people to step up. Kentucky needs people to step up, and I'm willing to do it.
How do you describe the reaction you feel that you have gotten out there?
Well, first of all, it's very humbling. The reaction to the video, it's been amazing. But I have to keep in mind, this isn't really about me. This is about people around Kentucky and people around the nation who simply are tired of standard politicians. They're tired of business as usual. They're tired of dysfunction, and they want people to step up who are honest and care about the country. And I think that's the reaction that I'm getting towards the video and towards my candidacy.
Do you think this will continue to be a time for outsiders? Obviously, President Trump came from the outside. There were many who did during last year's elections.
Mm-hmm. I think so, and that's what I'm hearing from Kentuckians when I go around and talk to them. They are tired of standard politicians. They are tired of people who make a career of politics, and they would like to see people from all walks of life get into office, because we need diversity in Congress, in places like Congress. We need veterans, for example. We have the lowest percentage of veterans in recent history in places like Congress. Veterans are the types of people who can come together and work on a mission on both sides of the aisle. So that's just one example how we need some diversity.
Colonel, you have called Congressman Barr hand-picked by Senator McConnell. That's what you used in your video. Do you plan to use his incumbency against him? Is that part of your goal if you're to be the nominee of the Democratic Party?
Well, what I plan to use against him is what he's voted on. You know, if you're an incumbent, you have a lot of advantages. However, I think one of the things that Kentuckians have to realize is look at what he's voted for. Look at who he's working for. Look at who is the donations to his campaign, but primarily look at what he's trying to push through with the rest of the Republicans about health care this past spring.
Let's talk about health care. How do you think? Do you acknowledge there are problems with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare? What do you think needs to be done?
Okay, absolutely, I acknowledge that there are problems with the Affordable Care Act. It was never perfect. But like any other major piece of legislation in America, Americans, we work to fix that legislation. So For Medicare, for example, Social Security, we don't just throw it away, we work to fix it. So if we were to start 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and build a healthcare system from scratch, I think, in my opinion, single payer is the way to go. But that's not the world we live in. We have this complex system right now. We have a lot of people invested in it and a lot of stakeholders, and we have invested a lot of money into it. And I think we can fix it. That's what Americans do. So one example of how to help fix Obamacare and our healthcare system in general is to have a Medicare buy-in plan for those who are 55 and older. That would be a win-win. It would help those who are 55 and over have a little bit of confidence and take the burden off of them, but it would also help the healthcare exchanges that are currently having some trouble right now.
Are you eventually for a single-payer system?
Well, I think we should work on fixing the healthcare system that we have right now. If that doesn't work long term, I think single payer is definitely the way we need to move. But I firmly believe that we can fix and we can work on the healthcare system that we have right now. Not the way the Republicans want to do it, by hurting people. We need to work and fix the system in a way that doesn't hurt people.
The opioid pill problem in America is horrendous, and it's probably ground zero in Kentucky. We know that. President Trump has declared a national emergency. Was that appropriate?
Absolutely, and I wish he would have done it sooner.
And do you propose any way to get the national hand around this problem?
Well, I think it all wraps around health care. I think we need to have therapy, and I think we need to work with the communities to find out what is the best way to fight this epidemic. It is a major problem.
It would seem that national security would be something that you'd be very interested in, given your service. Do you anticipate that if you were to be elected to Congress, you would seek a position that might give you that opportunity to oversee the military or be involved on committees in that regard?
Well, sure, that's my experience, but there are many committees out there that I would enjoy being on, that I think I could use my expertise on. But obviously I have a lot of experience in national security, having been a Marine Corps officer for 20 years.
When you see the developments of this week, how do you describe where we are at this moment?
With regards to North Korea?
North Korea,
North Korea is very troubling. What the president's, his remarks, his tweets are also very troubling. Look, you don't mess with nuclear weapons. You should not be ramping up rhetoric. When we have possibly two erratic leaders ramping up rhetoric and nuclear weapons, that makes it for a very dangerous scenario. Why? Because the risk of miscalculation gets higher and higher. You look back at the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were very close to miscalculation there, and there's several other examples in history. This is just not something you mess with. I think we need to bring it down. We need to have very disciplined, reserved leaders who speak softly and carry a big stick.
Would you anticipate that you will be critical of President Trump during this campaign? He carried all but one county in this district.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. When President Trump is right, I will be with him. When President Trump is wrong, I'm going to stand with the people of Kentucky and the people of America. So he's been right on some things, and he's been wrong on a lot of things. For example, the UN sanctions. He was for the UN sanctions against North Korea. That is definitely the way to go. So that's one example. I would be behind him 100%.
Other issues you'll be emphasizing in this campaign?
Well, jobs and the economy is always an issue. National security is always an issue, but I'm a Democrat, so I believe in a lot of the issues that Democrats believe in.
You are in the Democratic primary, as you know, and Senator Reggie Thomas has won elections before. He expects to do well in Lexington. He says he's working hard in those other counties. We still do not know if Lexington Mayor Jim Gray will enter the race. He says he is currently deciding his next move. Will this be a tough primary?
Well, I don't know, but I welcome a primary. This is a democracy. I welcome anybody to get in the race, and voters need to have a choice. They need to have choices out there, and I think it's good for our country and good for Kentucky.
What will you say to those who will point out that you never lived in this district before, deciding to seek public office from it?
Sure. Well, Kentucky's my home. I've chosen to serve my country in the military. And in the military, we move all around the country and all around the world as part of our job. I've come back to this district. The business opportunities are amazing for my husband, but really this is a great place to live, and who would not want to come back to this Lexington area? I have small children and relatives here. This is my home. Your video release, as we pointed out, got lots of attention. Do you see this as a local race, or is it one that is going to have national fingerprints all over it? Well, I hope that this is a local race. Most politics should be local. It should be about the people in this district and the people of Kentucky. And the next step as you move forward in this race? Well, right now I'm focused on going out to the counties. I have been through half the counties in this district, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and meeting more people and starting to listen. Senator Thomas also says he is on what he calls a listening tour. Do you think that's important? Absolutely. I mean, the job of a representative is to represent the people. If you don't listen to them, you don't go out there and meet them and hear their concerns, then you're not doing your job. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath, candidate for Congress on the Democratic side. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Bill, for having me. And coming up next, EKU President Dr. Mike Benson will be here. He'll talk about a campus transformation and what's next for that major regional university. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. It's an exciting time of the year on college campuses, and maybe nowhere more so than at Eastern Kentucky University, which is undergoing a campus transformation. It's fair to say that if you haven't been to campus lately, you haven't been to campus at EKU. Students are coming back to their new dorms and athletic facilities, the largest of its kind in Kentucky Science Building, a new parking garage, progress on a sparkling new dining hall, and more. Enrollment is also near a record high, with a goal and a plan to take those numbers above 18,000 students. EKU's 13th president is Dr. Michael Benson. He's worked to get more alumni support and to form public-private partnerships that make many of the new facilities possible. President Benson joining us this morning. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you, Bill.
Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Well, the new school starts this coming week, or at least they're moving in this coming week, getting ready to go, and I understand that you're expecting a crowd. What is the energy like on campus those first few days?
Well, as you know, higher ed, we're kind of tied to a different sort of calendar, and it's cyclical, and this for me is the most exciting time of year. The students come back, the move-in period happens, the faculty and staff come back to campus, football's right around the corner, and there's this vibe, this palpable vibe in the community that is very, very exciting. So this year I think it's doubly so with all the projects that you mentioned. And it's really exciting. So I encourage people to come back and see what's going on in Richmond.
Do you have enrollment indicators for this fall?
We do. We keep close tabs on it. And as I've tried to reiterate to all of our folks on campus, we're all recruiters. I mean, enrollment is so key to, it's the lifeblood of our campus. And it looks pretty strong. I mean, we're all competing for the same cohort of students in the Commonwealth. I know we'll talk about that. But we're very, very keen on paying close attention to our enrollment and making sure it stays strong.
And you have a goal to get that enrollment to about 18,500. How do you do that?
Well, our Board of Regents has given us pretty clear directives that we have the infrastructure to handle that. We do need to hire some additional faculty and staff to handle those numbers, but we have the wherewithal with our infrastructure to handle those numbers. But it's making sure we go after the right kind of student that's prepared for college work, that is attracted to our programs. We have to make sure we have the support system in place to make sure they're successful. But it's a matter of putting ourselves in a position to be competitive with those other institutions, yes, in Kentucky, but also in the region and the nation.
Are students coming to colleges prepared to do college work now?
Yes and no. You know, I wasn't that prepared, quite honestly. I don't know if you were, but it's kind of case by case. But for the most part, we don't have to do a lot of remediation at EKU. But I would encourage our students to hunker down, take advantage of that sophomore, junior, senior year in high school, and get ready to come to college. College is the one thing that will prepare you for whatever lies ahead better than anything else.
Do you like to have students who are, know where they're going to go and what they want to do, and they can jump through rather quickly, or is it okay to come to campus and sample around and try to figure out over some time?
That's a good question, and I think there are two answers to that. I think it's an individual, it's very subjective. I mean, every student is different. Every situation is different. Every situation is unique. I am a big believer that college is a chance to, yes, to experiment and find out where your niche is. But also we have I think in Kentucky an expectation that the taxpayers expect students to get serious and to be serious and to get in and get it done. Still in all, you know, I changed my major several times. Maybe you did, but it takes a little while, maybe a few semesters, to kind of find out where your strengths lie, and sometimes you have to kind of explore.
With the dollars being tight, though, do universities still need to try to be all things to all people, or should universities like Eastern drive students where they know the future jobs and opportunities are?
Well, it's a good question. We can't be everything to everybody, and as you know, we've gone through a process to try and refine our programs and to align with where those jobs are. There are certain things we do really, really well. There are certain programs that we have that are unique to EKU. Our aviation program, our nursing program, our teacher preparation, our forensic science, our criminal justice program is one of the best in the country. I could go through the list of some of those unique programs. So we'll continue to do those well and do them even better. You know, the fact is we don't have an engineering program, we'll never have a law school, we'll never have medical school, we'll leave those to other schools. But what we do well, we'll do even better. And we continue to refine our programs and find those niches and offer the programs that other schools aren't, and attract those students that are coming to EKU exactly for those programs that we offer.
We do hear a lot of buzz about the aviation program. It is a unique program. What do you want people to know about it?
I want people to know that we're the only one in Kentucky, and there is a very acute challenge that the world is facing in terms of a pilot shortage. In the next 20 years, they're estimating close to 750,000 pilots will be needed in the commercial aviation throughout the globe. And we're trying our best to help meet that demand. And so you can come to EKU. We're the only one that is FAA approved for 1,000 seat hours to get your bachelor's degree in commercial aviation and go get a job being a pilot. So we're the only one in Kentucky.
Do you work with some of the airlines to
yes,
coordinate what their needs are?
And we have great communication and partnerships with those airlines, with UPS, with other partners. And we're going to do even better to triage our students into those jobs as they're available.
As we mentioned, campus is being transformed. There's no doubt about it. Lots of construction there. The most common things that I hear are, can you believe the changes, and how are they going to pay for that? Tell us about this, the major construction blitz you're in the middle of, and how you are doing some of this with public-private partnerships.
If you took all of the capital projects we have underway or on the drawing board, it's almost $300 million. About $240 million of that is non-state appropriated funds. So public-private partnerships, Aramark, our dining provider, is doing the dining hall. Some agency bonds are paying for our athletic improvements. Our students passed a fee to redo the student union, which, as you know, Bill, the Powell Student Union has not been touched since 1972, and to build a new rec center. So we've tried to be very creative and aggressive in our timeline, but to pay for these projects, we knew we weren't going to get support from the state because the state is facing some other challenges. So we had to go out and be outside the box, as it were, and try to come up with some funding mechanisms to get these projects done. And if you've been to other campuses, and I take my kids every chance we travel to campuses to get ideas, and the competition out there for students is uber, I mean, it is keen. And not just in Kentucky, in the region, in the country. And if you don't have what students want in terms of facilities and programs, guess what? Their funds are portable, and they're going to go elsewhere. And so we're really dialed into what we have, and EKU needed to be refreshed, and that's what we've done.
Well, the buildings are sparkling, no doubt about that. It's what goes on inside that is so important,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, and as you try to be sure that academics stays competitive at a level that is also something that is valuable to students. How do you do that? Keep that balance between those needs from an infrastructure standpoint, and also keep academics going.
Well, bricks and mortar are important, and you're exactly right. But what happens inside the classroom, in the tutoring office, in the advising office, that's what's important. And it's the daily impact that our faculty and staff have on our students that change lives. And so we're never going to lose focus on our people and put that emphasis on the human capital that we have at EKU.
What is your goal with the major upgrade of the athletic facilities? As you said, they need to be refreshed, but you also were very clear a couple of years ago that you wanted to move up, particularly in the football conferences. Is that still something you'd like to see happen?
Well, it's true. We were passed over for the Sun Belt, and we were told that it came down to our facilities. The upgrades to our facilities are not about conference affiliation right now. It's about the experience for our student athletes and also for our fans. Our baseball stadium, named for Earl Combs, arguably one of the most famous people to come out of Richmond, the chair of our board at EKU and a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame, leadoff batter for the Yankees in 1927. We announced today that the Roy Kidd statue is going to be unveiled on September the 23rd. A new softball facility. So all these things are for our student athletes and also for our community. We're excited that we're hosting more tournaments. We're going to have some exciting news relative to our basketball facility here shortly. But our goal is to get more prospective people, students, to campus to show them what we have to offer. This is not just about athletics. This is about getting students to campus to show them what EKU has, and hopefully entice them to eventually matriculate and become colonels.
And so, just very quickly back to the conference question, do you still continue to try to court your way up the chain, or?
I see where you're getting at, Bill, but all I'm going to say is all you can do is get better. We've got to win at the level where we are, give our coaches and our players, our student athletes, the resources they need, and see what happens.
We're with President Michael Benson of Eastern Kentucky University. A couple of questions about overall higher education in Kentucky. We'll do that when we come back, and it's good to have you with us on Kentucky Newsmakers. Welcome back. Good to have you with us for Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT as we continue to visit with Dr. Michael Benson. He is the president of Eastern Kentucky University. Talked about all of these changes and the upgrades and going on. Rapid changes can sometimes be dizzying to some. Many long-term buildings and grounds folks no longer work for the university. They were transferred over or outsourced. Do you expect that is going to work out successfully?
I think it will. All indications suggest that it's going smoothly. And we, as you know, were given a directive by our Board of Regents to cut out of our budget, given the kind of realities of the state situation, a substantial amount of money. So we faced some stark realities, and we had to make some hard choices.
Let's talk about where higher education is and where it's going. Obviously, the budgets were cut a couple of years ago. The assistance from state government has decreased over the last 10 years or so, and so the universities are having to do more and more on their own. Now you're competing for the same pie, right? The same money. Is there's this performance-based funding. Do you feel well positioned to compete for your dollars?
I do, and the reason I say that, if you look at all the indicators and you extrapolate from the data, recent data, our graduation rates have gone up, our retention rates have gone up, the production of our degrees have gone up, so all these arrows are pointing in the right direction. Now that said, as I said before, the competition is very keen, and we are going head-to-head with all of our universities here in Kentucky, but also in the region. There are a lot of students in Ohio and the border states that know about our programs and want to come to EKU. Is our tuition priced at the right price point that they can afford to come? But are we also serving Kentucky students? And I want to mention that our freshman class last year, 93% of those kids are from Kentucky. So we are Kentucky's university in that we have the highest percentage of Kentucky native students as our freshman students than any other Kentucky school.
How do you get or keep university alums to be interested in what's going on campus? And do you reach out to some who may have been gone a long time and let them know that what you're up against and that there are some exciting things happening?
Well, you may have read we had our best fundraising year ever this last year. And I want to thank our alumni for their continual support. I think it's absolutely vital that we communicate. And as you know, through social media, we can do that. But our development, our communications team really do a top-rate job in doing that. But through our alumni magazine, through social media, electronic means, we try our best to get the message out of what we're doing and what's going on, and to tell them they're welcome to come back to Richmond and to EKU anytime.
And you have some extraordinary branding going on. The logo atop Keene Hall. I mean, it's attention-getting. You know, it was pretty obvious. It's like, why wasn't that up there before, right?
I drove by that first time. I thought, boy, there's a billboard, and let's backlight it, and you can see it from the interstate now.
About a minute left, Mr. President. What are your goals going forward for Eastern Kentucky University?
EKU is a wonderful place. It's got a long tradition dating back to 1874. My family and I have come to love it, and it's got a wonderful, exciting future. And I want to thank everybody that's believed in us the last 4 years and in our revitalization. I believe we've done what we need to do with our infrastructure up to this point. Yes, we need a new model lab school and a few other things, but we're really going to focus on our programs, on our enrollment, on our people, on our faculty and staff from this point forward, and make sure we're positioned to compete for those students that you talked about, because it is very, very competitive, and we feel good about where we are, but it's an exciting future ahead.
More people walking. You're closing some of the streets, right? So
that's right. We're going to be even more pedestrian friendly.
All right. Mr. President, thank you. We appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. I'll see you bright and early this week for the morning news. We start at 4:30, and we hope you make it a good week ahead.